boys and girls. So from our last video, I told you we were going to be learning about the Slinky. So I'm going to read you this book called The Marvelous Thing That Came from a Spring. And we are going to learn how the Slinky came about. So it says, Richard James was a dreamer, but in 1943 the United States was at war. Richard had to support his country and his family, so he worked as an engineer for the United States Navy in a shipyard in Philadelphia. His assignment was to invent a device that would keep fragile ship equipment from vibrating in choppy seas. So here, boys and girls, I told you that you can learn about real people. It can have a real setting as well. So we have learned that our creator's name in our book is Richard James. And this happened back in 1943, and he was living in Philadelphia at the time. So we've learned about a real person and a real time. Richard tried all kinds of springs, but nothing was working. Then one day a torsion spring fell from the shelf above his desk. Its coils took a walk, and so did Richard's imagination. So here, because of that simple little action of the spring falling down, he has now had an idea. Had that never happened, the Slinky may not have ever come about. This spring might not work for the Navy's ships, but Richard knew he had stumbled onto something. What was it? After work, Richard rushed home and showed his wife, Betty, the floppy spring. They gave the spring to their son, Tom, who let it go from the top of the stairs. The family watched in astonishment as so we've learned two more people involved, his wife, Betty, and his son, Tom. And they're taking the spring, they've put it at the top of the steps, and let's see what it does. It walked all the way down. So here we have that light bulb. His thoughts are going off. They're sparking. I think it's a toy, Richard marveled. Betty thought so too. She also thought that if they wanted to share their discovery with the world, they needed to figure out what on earth to call the thing. He said, I think it's a... Wait, I got it. What about... No, let me think. Betty thumbed through a dictionary for 2 days, underlining words. Nothing sounded quite right until she found Slinky, meaning graceful and curvy in movement. Slinky also sounded like the swish and clink of the spring's coils in motion. So now, with the help of Betty, they've come up with a name. It was only a name, but it was just right. With one word, Betty thought she could transform the spring into the Slinky, a one-of-a-kind thing. Richard and Betty wanted to produce a lot of Slinkies, but they did not have the money to do it. So Richard sprang for the bank and took out a $500 loan to have 400 Slinkies made. Once they arrived, Richard brought his invention to every toy store in Philadelphia, but no one wanted it. Was the James's idea a flop? Finally, he tried a large department store called Gimbel's. Gimbel's showed as little interest in the toy as the other stores, but Richard begged the manager to allow him to demonstrate how it worked to the holiday shoppers, just once. So here he's now went to another toy store and he's begging, please just put the Slinky in, let me show everyone how it works and see if it's a hit. And so, on a stormy night in November 1945, with Christmas just weeks away, shoppers poured into Gimbel's. They were searching for the next great stocking stuffer, and Richard was ready. He placed the coil at the top of the ramp he had built and scanned the store for Betty. Where was she? Betty was still pacing back and forth at home. She was afraid no one would want the toy. Just in case, she asked her friend to pose as an excited shopper and gave her $1 to buy one. But Richard was unable to wait any longer, so he took a deep breath and let the Slinky go. So he couldn't wait any longer on Betty. He just said, I'm just going to have to show everyone. And voila! Everybody's watching. When Betty finally arrived at Gimbel's, there was no need to pretend to love the toy. All 400 Slinkies had sold in 90 minutes. The Slinky was a hit. The war ended that same year, and the troops returned home to marry their sweethearts. A baby boom soon followed, and demand for the Slinky skyrocketed, meaning that everybody wanted a Slinky. So Richard dreamed up an even bigger idea. He used his engineering skills to build a machine that could coil 80 feet of steel wire into a Slinky in 10 seconds. While Richard made the Slinkies and drove the delivery van, Betty kept the business running smoothly. She frantically filled orders, sent and collected payments, and hid their profits in a roasting pan below the basement. Soon there was more business than the Jameses could handle by themselves. So the Slinky has become really popular at this point. So Richard and Betty built a factory and hired 20 people to work for them. At last they were able to spin out enough Slinkies for every child in America to have one. Today the Slinky still inspires kids of all ages and all across the globe to play. It took the teamwork of a dreamer and a planner to turn an ordinary spring into a truly marvelous thing. And that's the end, boys and girls. So, we have learned through our book right here, our story, how the spring came about. And I hope you enjoyed learning about it just like I did. Bye, guys.